All right, everyone, welcome back to the rest of the Misinformation, Disinformation, and Random Thoughts with Agnards and Fat Phil. Part one. This is part two. Part one is on Agnard's channel. Go check that out. We talked a lot about Ahsoka with Death Trooper Peridia's kit reveal on there. Talked about kind of whether we think there's an economy event for Ahsoka. Should you be farming her as a mid-game character? So make sure you guys check that out. That will be linked in the description down below, and it'll probably be on somewhere, I don't know, end of the video or wherever. Go find it. Like, it's not that hard to find us. Um, but in part two, we want to kind of segue into where we think the rest of the game is heading. Not just in, hey, but after Ahsoka, what does it look like with the changes we've gotten to datacrons and things? And then obviously, I think the big question is, when are we getting more Lightspeed bundles and what do those look like? So I want to ask Agnards first on Lightspeed bundles. What do you think they're going to look like? We're coming up on what, a year that they've been in the game now. Do you
Yep.
think we're going to get all of them back for the anniversary? What are your thoughts there?
So number one, I do think the anniversary they usually bring back like pretty much every pack. So I don't know if they're gonna bring back every Lightspeed bundle. That is a lot of them for a relatively low cost for people. I do think that we will definitely see the Luminara one for the raid as kind of like a catch-up reminder to people of saying, hey, here's this thing, here's a cheap way to get a little of an increase, you missed it before. I do think we'll probably get at least the GL ones, and I do think we're going to get one, if not two, new ones that'll probably be shown. And I know a lot of people are saying C and other GLs, but with all of the bundles that have come out in the last year, right, we got Ray and Slicker kind of together in the beginning. And then we got like a reimagining of them a little bit later. But then we got mostly core teams. And I think we're going to see more core team bundles and less GL bundles coming up.
And the one that we kind of, I don't know, that I think will also come back with Luminara will be the General Skywalker bundle.
I
To
think,
kind of,
yeah, with Ahsoka
for
especially.
yeah, that General Skywalker bundle and Starkiller were both $50, and those were the only two bundles that were that expensive. Um, and I don't think, I'm trying to think, Starkiller was released initially, and we've not seen anything of that since that first time.
No.
Correct?
And the only time we saw
Um,
the GL bundles come back was kind of like a snafu. It almost seemed like it wasn't intended, right? They released gifting, and they were like, "Hey, you can gift these to people. You can't buy them yourselves." And it pissed people off. Like people were angry about that. So towards the end of that, they said, "Okay, fine. We'll let you buy them yourselves, and we'll extend it a week." So I don't even think that was really intended. It was more of a let's give gifting a chance rather than here's another chance at the Lightspeed bundle.
and by the way, just like side note on gifting, you're on your mobile, right?
Yes.
Do you have gifting as something that you could like? I'm on the PC client, and
hmm
I do not have gifting available.
So gifting is available on the mobile. I've bought gifts for people before in my guild. You know, like I can go in, buy for others, right, and then like everybody in my guild will be here. Um, I've bought gifts for people in my guild. People have bought me gifts in my guild. There was one time a month ago, one of our guys who've been with us for a long time, he messed up his platoons. And I said, you know what, fine, I'll take this guy to R8. Like, I don't want to take this guy to R8, but I don't want to screw up our TB. I'll do it, done,
Yeah.
whatever. And then an hour later, there was a $10 crystal pack in my mailbox. And I messaged him. I was like, you didn't have to do that. Like, it's fine. And he was like, hey, you know, whatever, like, you would have done something else with that. And I like, it's $10. It's not a big deal. I just appreciate you helping me out.
Hey, that's solid. It's a solid. That's a for messing up. That's a solid guild mate. At least,
Yeah.
even just owning up to it. Forget the gift. Like I don't want you guys to think, oh, you got to gift your guild thing. Just solid owning up to it in some way, shape, or form is nice.
I think that's a big thing in
Um,
our guild is there are a lot of people that we know each other very well. Like I've sent one of my guild mates he just quit the game. He sent me his copy of Jedi Survivor. So I played Jedi Survivor for free, and then I sent it back to him. You know, like there's people in there that we know a lot of. Like, when you're on Discord with people, you get to know people pretty well.
no, I don't disagree with that at all. Talking to one of them right now. Um, but yeah, so because I think the one thing with the Lightspeed bundles that we've kind of noticed a little bit more, I kind of noticed this, and I think others have as well, that they're beginning to impact the game in bigger ways.
Yes.
They're not they're not just giving you things to catch up anymore. It really seems that they're trying to give you stuff that is current in the game. And like I think that got even bigger. The Luminara team for the raid and separatist teams, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But the General Skywalker bundle and the Ewok bundle really began to make sense when you release Ahsoka and General Skywalker's required.
Yeah.
Because a lot of players, C3PO is not the easiest event in the world, and you don't want to do it, and he's needed for a bunch of stuff. But General Skywalker, even worse, because of the level of investment required for him is pretty substantial. Um, and to get those at relic levels is huge. And it's current not only for the raid, but current now that hey, basically get an Ahsoka requirement close to the star level that you need. Obviously, there's a lot of investment in General Skywalker, but it's a lot better than what it normally was. Um, so I think the one bundle that I'm kind of waiting for is that Return of Star Killer because I feel like you did it once, you got to do it again, right? Like you dipped your feet in the water, time to take it back.
I think for the returns, we're gonna definitely see the popular ones at the anniversary in November. And for newer players who are interested in these Lightspeed bundles who don't understand, the anniversary is like our Christmas. They give us like a really nice inbox reward that is very generous, and then they release a ton of packs. And I don't buy most of them or any of them really, but like some of them are a really good value. And that's when they originally reduced the hyperdrive bundle to $50, you know, because it used to be
Yep.
100. And I think that that's when we'll see those super popular ones. Like maybe if there's a chance for Star Killer, that's going to be then.
I would not be shocked if they return Star Killer and also release Afra in
And
that same
so you think an
in that
Afro
same.
one next?
I feel like she would make a lot of sense. And I'm not just saying that as somebody who doesn't have her, right? I'm saying that as a the general consensus with the community is I'm not going to go farm Afra because she's a luxury character. That is the general
Yeah,
consensus on
she
this community.
absolutely is.
Listen, you listen to any creator and they will tell you that.
But now my
But
question
if
for
you're telling,
you specifically about Afra, you're not free to play, but you are like a super light spender. Like you spend like very, very, very frugally. And as someone who doesn't want to do those cantina farms, and maybe could benefit from Afra in some degree with where you are in the game, would you, money not aside, would you buy it? And then what would be the highest price point that you would buy it at if so?
oh god, yeah, that $50 one is that's a tough pill to swallow for me. I'm just
Yeah.
like a cheap son of a bitch.
And but that's
But
probably where it will be if anything.
right, and I think being realistic, I'd probably get peer pressured into doing it. Like I'd be on a live stream and I just get peer pressured into doing it. Um, the way I'd have to justify it, realistically, the way I'd have to justify it is that I. It's not even the Kyrotech anymore. That's the one side of it that I'm like, oh, the Kyrotech would be easy because I don't have any hard notes similar to you.
Yeah.
So all I'm doing now is farming Kyrotech. I'm getting an extra 280 every single month in Kyrotech alone from Zepho and Mandalore, and all the get 2 on top of that. Like
Yeah, I have
I'm flush
1,200
with
shock
Kyrotech.
prods. Like that's all I spend my energy on.
Oh, you have 1,200.
1,200 shock
Okay, I'm not
prods.
trying. I've got oh that's hold on. I've got 1717 right now,
Oh my! So you're even. Wow. Yeah.
and I've got 1471 of the laptop,
So I'm about a
which those are
thousand or
easier to
so
get.
of each. Yeah. But now, did you
But
take
yeah, like
Morgan and them to G11, or did you hold them back?
oh no, I hold them back.
Okay, so like I bring new characters to G11 right away.
Oh yeah, no, I have mine. I've not spent any Kyrotech on Sap, Morgan,
Okay,
or Night
yeah.
Trooper.
See,
Like I
I've
won't.
done all of them.
Oh, see, I'm still now. Because your account's much more developed than mine, so I won't take a character. I won't spend any Kyrotech on a character unless I'm willing to relic them.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So that's where
And
the
that and
discrepancy
that
is in the amount.
yes, because that way, and I more look at it that I'm probably at the point now where I could do what you do because like that's where my next Kyrotech are going anyway, so it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. But if like Luthen, I want to be able to get Luthen and potentially relic him, even if he's hot trash, but he makes my Mothma team better. Like that's fine. But I want that. I want that ability that I don't have to think about taking a character like him to relics. I can just do it and move on with life. Because
My
he is.
continue your point.
Because the only other thing I was thinking of is like worst comes to worst, I can just throw him with some random rebel team and he'll be fine.
And you'll be okay. So my
Yeah.
thought process here is like when my wife and I got married, we had a 2.5 year engagement, and we sat down at a table and we decided each month, all right, let's put this money in a separate account. And you're married, like I don't know if you had a big wedding or not, but like those checks get disgusting. Like they're very large. A lot of money gets spent. And my thought was, if we put this all in a separate account and it's gone and we don't think about it for 2 years, when I start to write those checks, it doesn't feel so bad. Because I go, oh, that money, it's been gone for so long, I haven't thought about it. And that's kind of my theory with Kyrotech. Because I'm at a point where it's not a big deal, I just bring them to G11 right away, so that when I need to relic them, it feels like, oh, I'm just spending 100, right? Like that's already gone. That's out of the bank, right? So I, instead of spending 500 in one shot, I'm like, let's get that out of the way, and then we'll do it in two sets, in two bits.
I'm probably getting closer to that now that I don't even pay attention to the gear I equip anymore.
Yeah,
But it's just signal data that kills me.
that holds us all back. So you're saying that, to backtrack, Afra $50. You don't want to spend it, but you probably will.
I think if I'd get bullied into it, I similar to the Luminara pack. Like Luminara was hot
Yeah.
in terms of the character it was giving you. But I looked at it as 5 relic 5s that I don't have to equip the signal data to.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was worth it.
So I'm
Similar to
surprised.
Afra, with Afra, it's the combination of how many thousand Kyrotech and the signal data that I won't have to equip.
What I'm surprised at, though, is as a content creator, as someone who's been doing YouTube a lot longer than I have, we both know that it's pennies on a dollar, and that's fine. I'm not here to complain about that at all. And knowing the work that you do in the real world, that there's no fat fill incorporated, and you can just, like, I forgot the word for it. Help me out here. You can just write off that $50, and I know that it's not that easy, but like you could push that in and say, no, that's a business expense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not big enough to warrant something like that where
Too
it's
much
worth.
effort on your part.
Yeah, like I mean, I I send my taxes to get done by a professional, even though I'm an accountant, because like my wife has her business. I'm not trying to put my name on those things. Like,
Yeah,
forget
yeah, yeah.
that. Um, I'll let them write their name on the shady things of, oh, we're gonna deduct our internet and all that garbage. Because
Yeah,
like,
don't
you know,
don't say that here. Yeah, my taxes are
um,
still not done. My accountant isn't done with them. Mine will get done before October, hopefully. So we'll see what happens.
but like, I it's not. I'm not a big enough creator where I think like to me the YouTube stuff is just kind of fun things. Give
Oh,
me
of
give me
course, of
give me
course.
the
I don't. I think that that's why we get
give me
along
the
so
excitement.
well. Is that we're not, and I know that you need to step away for a second. So we're gonna scratch that for a minute, and instead of stalling, we were talking about like light speed bundles, and for the people that are listening at home, my thought is that we're probably looking at like Old Republic. I think that Old Republic is probably the core team that is missing from the current iteration of the Lightspeed bundles, where we've had a gas bundle, where we've had a Star Killer bundle, and where Old Republic will kind of give you both
Yep.
Malik, um, Revan, Darth Revan. So what I was stalling with before I get back to my original point is my idea on the Lightspeed bundle, and I'll tell you what that is in a second. But what I wanted to say was I think that the reason that you and I get along so well is that I don't want to imply that you're doing this for the money. That we both do this for fun. We enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun to get on, talk to people, interact with communities. But knowing that you're an accountant, my assumption would be like, oh, even though I'm only making 75 cents a video, I can deduct this because it is a business in a sense. But because I don't want to deal with people that are in it for the money. Like that's why that's not what it's for. I have a job. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, I always have said like I get money from YouTube to do something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Like I go on a live stream and the purpose isn't to like the only reason why I like started the channel memberships is people kind of asked about it, but it is a nice way to kind of separate the roster of views for people who are willing to support it. That's kind of the way I've always viewed it. It's like, hey, I can do some free ones if I have the time, but if you're willing to pay for a roster review, I'm going to give you that.
That
You're
extra.
going to go first. And
See,
with a, again, I enjoy doing it. I love helping the community. I started the, I'm sure you very similarly. I started this because I want to help people avoid the mistakes that I made.
yeah, yeah. And like I like talk. So a few weeks ago, actually, somebody that I've never interacted with, um, who is part of a guild that for some reason has taken a liking to me. Fortuna favors the bold. I call them Egnard's army now. But I've never interacted with this person. They reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Manhattan in a few weeks. Do you want to meet me for a beer?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Like that sounds great. Like I'll go meet people. Like I'll go have a beer with you in a bar. Like if you're in this area, like absolutely. Like that's fun to me. Just talking to people from other states, from other livelihoods, from other areas, and learning about people and helping those people. But that is why I think we get along. And before everybody tunes out and is like, "Oh, this is stupid now," that we want to hear about the game. When you had to step away to go turn on your Bluey reruns for your daughter, my thought was that the next Lightspeed bundle, you said Afra. I happen to think it's going to be Old Republic and be a Malik bundle.
Ooh. So I've given that thought before. And the only reason I think there's some validity there because Leviathan is locked behind so many other things like Fury class and Malgus
Malgus.
himself. But I've always wondered if the reason they wouldn't do that is because it's a very direct link to those characters.
But if you think
That
about it, actually, getting those characters to G12 or so is easy. They're accelerated, right? And if they give it
well,
as an
that was
R, if they give it
go
as
ahead.
an R3 or as an R5 bundle, that's also relatively free to play friendly. Relatively. It's that push to getting two R9s that becomes the moneymaker for early games accounts who may not have the droid brain economy or the droid brain acquisition that we have, that are now going to say, okay, I spent $50, $30, whatever it is to get Malik, and now if I want to get Leviathan, because I'm so much closer than I ever thought I would be, I now need to spend 10,000 crystals on R9 material.
So the other, I was more thinking of it that like even with like assault battles like that, or not assault battles, but like these light speed bundles like Malik, Revan, Jedi Revan. What if they did them and they weren't relics? Because you don't necessarily those
Need
events don't
relics.
require relic levels.
Yeah,
So could you do a light speed bundle for those where it doesn't require relics? In that way, you're not because if you gave realistically for a lot of like for I guess it depends on the level of player you are. I would say for most end game players, if I told you I was going to give you five relic fives, that's awesome, right? Like
yes.
that's saving you a ton of signal data. But if I told an earlier game player I'm going to give you 10 gear 12s, would that be more
They view
beneficial?
it the
You
same
know, like
way.
is that yeah.
I don't know
But
if anyone will buy that at $50, but if they did like a Malik bundle at G12 for $30, I could see people buying that. Especially if you didn't have to
because you
spend get one on Malik
get
shards.
oh, but that would be the only thing is they need to have something to speed up that process.
Yeah. Well, now that I said that out loud, I realized like the gas bundle didn't actually give you gas; it gave you the requirements. So Malik, you
But
probably
it did give
would.
you, but didn't it give you a 7-star negotiator?
Yes, it did.
And
And I know people that
the
bought it just for
negotiator,
that.
yeah, and the negotiator is how many
Get
get
two.
to,
It's like twenty
and
two
so
thousand or something like that.
oh no, it's way more than that.
I don't know. It's
You
been
only
four
get
years since I've had to do it.
it's like in the I think it's almost 70,000.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Hold
Yeah,
on,
it's been a
give it.
long, long time. But I do know people in the mid game who maybe like started a little later than negotiating being important, who never bothered with it because they went straight for executor, who are like, oh, I can get this at 7 stars and have this useful fleet. Absolutely.
All right, how much get to do you think it is? Over under 70,000.
Okay, hold on. Let me, off the top of my head, I just guessed 22,000. So I think it was 5 shards, right? And don't tell me, I think it was 1250 per set of 5 shards. 5 times divided by 100 is 20. So 20, 40, 60. So about 70 times 1250. So 77,500.
You were close. It's 1350 for five shards. So it's
Okay.
89,100 get to.
Okay. So if we figured an extra 100, and so I was still a little bit off, but all right.
You were close enough. You're close.
It's been
You're
a
in the range
long
of.
time since I've had to buy those shards.
I mean, I'm looking at it, so I'm cheating. But with the idea with Malik that I would say is if they gave you the get one that you would need, or they just said, hey, upon like they had some way that Malik could get into your account because the problem is they can't give you the journey guide character.
Yeah,
They can give you all the pieces,
to
but
get
for
to it.
Malik you have Revan, you need Darth Revan still, and you would need Malak himself, which is the problem you'd run into with a pack like that.
Well, they can give you shards because didn't before Lightspeed bundles didn't they sell a small amount of gas shards and Malik shards for crystals? Like it was not enough to unlock the character, but it was enough where like if you had it unlocked, you were spending less get. I think it was in the weekly store for a few weeks.
Maybe, but I
I'm
were those
pretty sure.
locked behind them being were those locked behind them being 7-star characters that, or like at least unlocked in your account?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they were locked between behind you had to have them unlocked, but I know that they didn't sell them long enough where you'd be able to get it unlocked without the event.
Yeah, because I know your get and the Mark 1 or whatever it is, your raid currencies are locked until you get through the event.
Yes.
But that could be a something for them to think about is give you the get 1 to be able to purchase. Again, it'd be hard. You could say, "Oh, purchase Malik or General Skywalker," but hey, if somebody's willing to buy a pack, who cares? But give you the get 1 you need to purchase those two characters along with that pack, and that way you don't have to save. Because one of the big problems for going with those guys is the amount of resources you have to save is pretty substantial.
The only thing that with get one though, I think if we go into the guild store, can you buy? Is it only get two that you can buy these things with? So this is all get. No, this is the wrong store. Guild event store. Um, so like you can buy that purple gear that I'm talking about, like med packs and like the things that
Yep.
kind of are in the G12 fleet store. I think my concern with giving a lot of get one to get that is that there might actually be people, if it's cheap enough, who are in my position who will say, wait a second, I can buy med packs with that. I can buy, security scanners with that. I'll buy this pack just to get that. And maybe that's not a bad thing for them, honestly. Who knows?
Yeah. Like I mean, I'm never gonna stop them from trying to make money at this point. Like keep the game going for as long as you can. I wouldn't hate them selling that currency. It's but in that regard, you'd have to up the price because you're like I would argue personally that a Malik pack with Gear 12 characters and enough get 1 that you can get him to 7-star would be worth as much or more than the negotiator bundle. With the difference being, I'm giving you the option of how you want to use this get 1.
Yeah, whether you're using it on that or on something else.
Correct. That there's a lot. Would you rather me give you a $40,000 car or me give you $40,000?
Yeah.
Like you're getting $40,000 of value, but one of them you get to do whatever the hell you want with it, and the other one is just a car. Like, and I mean, just a car, but I
And it's
hope
now
that
worth $10,000 less the second you drive it anyway, so it
yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah, yeah. That would be my argument against like why the valuation could be higher is because that stuff's worth more.
So you're saying Afra, I'm saying maybe Malik, and we're talking about that Malik. Is there anything else here that is even like possible in our different tags and our different things, or anything that you think would be reasonable?
One thing they haven't sold is and I mean I guess it would kind of tie into Sith Eternal, but like there's no R2D2 pack. We've
What does
gotten Thrawn
R2D2 need? He needs to unlock
Empire.
Empire. So you think maybe an Empire
Oh,
pack, but it wouldn't. I mean, Empire is such a huge faction that you'd probably want to
you
limit
could
it to some extent.
yeah, like we've gotten the Phoenix bundle,
Yeah.
which gets you Palpatine and gets you Thrawn. You got the first order bundle for BB-8. There was the bundles for JTR. We had the Beskar Armor Mando packs. There's a Padme bundle.
Yeah. What about a CLS bundle?
Um, I don't think we've had a CLS
No, we
bundle.
haven't. What I mean is, what about that coming up? It's very specific characters that you don't want, that aren't that great,
Um,
right? For the most part, for $10
yeah,
to get to CLS.
maybe. But didn't they sell? Didn't they sell Old Ben as part? Like, didn't they sell pieces of it in the Rebel bundle? Farm Boy Luke.
Maybe that
I'm
is
trying
that.
to think back to the Rebel bundle. I know Farm Boy Luke was part of it because I have a Relic 3 Farm Boy.
Okay, yeah. And you need an
Um,
R2. R2 is needed for CLS, and CLS and R2 is a character himself. So maybe that's not.
yeah. But either way, like CLS isn't a horrible shout. I think Empire is that one that's sticking out to me for R2D2 that just like screams I need a bundle. Um, not because I think a lot of people struggle with that event, but you did all these other characters in that
And
tier
it's a
are
cheap one,
just
like a $10 one for an early game player.
yeah, and it could be a mix of them. Like who the hell cares if it's five characters who don't even get along with each other? It's still gonna beat that event.
Yeah, I mean, I personally hope that it's Imperial Probe Droid, Gar Saxon, Range Trooper, Snow Trooper, and I don't know who else. Just so I can buy it and get some relic characters out of it. But they all look the
Your
same now. I
Empire
can't even look at their. You know,
your
we don't
Empire looks
have
very different.
we don't have Sand Trooper. Like, where is Sand Trooper?
Dude, he's Anakin killed him. Doesn't like sand.
That's some OG shit. It bothers me.
But yeah, I think there's not a ton of bundles that are missing at this
Yeah.
point. Like realistically, you look at the journey guide, every like the Jedi bundle worked for Grandmaster Yoda. Like Relic Fives are gonna beat that event. So
What
yeah,
about
I definitely
a
I don't
MILF bundle?
so but they had that already.
Did
In
they?
that first order bundle, I mean almost, but like the first order bundle for Kylo when they sold the finalizer one, you got
Oh, because it has
Xanadu
half of
Blood.
them. For finalizer, you need Houndstooth, and yeah.
Yeah, you got a bunch of them from that event, and it was like you got Slave One, Xanadu Blood, and Houndstooth.
Okay, so then
And
it's not worth it. So yeah, I mean, so then really there's only a few. We've talked about two, right? You're saying Afra, I'm saying Malik. Then it really just comes down to GL bundles, and I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna give us another GL bundle. I feel like they gave SLKR and Ray as kind of like a loss leader almost to pull people into the game, and they're like, well, we don't need to do another one. And I could be wrong. Maybe they will do one, but I just don't think it's as necessary from a business standpoint.
those two GLs have almost no overlap.
Yes. Yeah.
That was that was my big reasoning for them doing those two. Like if you did a JML bundle, you're basically halfway to life.
Yeah.
Like and but maybe this could be the other way. What if they did a Jedi Knight Luke bundle?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
relic because
Those are
those are only
Relic
relic
3.
threes.
And it gives you a
You
basically a
think
random assortment of characters to some extent.
like you get the king at relic three, so there's a ton of get one save. Um, CLS himself, so that you don't get CLS from that, so that doesn't matter. You also wouldn't get Chewbacca or C3PO.
But if they did a journey for Jedi Knight Luke, they could do a part of the CLS in there, and it wouldn't be as detrimental that some of them were in other bundles, right? To say, all right, you get these things for Jedi Knight Luke, but these other things are kind of almost free, right? Like you also
Right.
get like your farm boy also. Like that's kind of like not even in the equation, and it won't feel as bad in terms of like, oh, I already got that from the Rebel bundle.
Yes, yeah, you could do like Farm Boy, Stormtrooper Han, all that garbage.
But then you also have like
Because
Chewbacca.
I'm looking.
Chewbacca's his own thing. C3PO is
Yep,
his own
and
thing.
so, but you could do a bundle for Jedi Knight Luke that would not feel overly detrimental to the game because of some of the legendaries there, and that, like maybe Chewbacca even. I mean, I know bounty hunters are kind of a very popular thing, but could you do a Chewbacca bundle to the only thing I say with bounty hunters is problematic is I think every single one outside of Grief and Mando and Boba Fett signed a Django. So take those three characters out. All the rest of them are required for a Galactic Legend.
Well, yeah. Is
Or
Bosk
a
required? No, right?
I guess Executor.
Well, okay. If we're talking about that, then
Yeah,
yes, they're
I kind of lumped the GL ships into
into
the
that.
yeah, but they're all required for something outside of Boba Fett, Grief, and Mando.
So it does get
At rel,
harder to offer newer bundles without it being. So then I think my thought here is when you offer a separatist bundle for what was it? Was that $20?
yes,
Okay, so if you offer that for $20, it's kind of self-contained. You offer the Luminara bundle for $20, it's kind of self-contained. When you start to offer bundles in characters that we haven't offered yet, a lot of them aren't self-contained and they help you in multiple areas of the game. We can almost expect, hey, maybe they'll still offer them, but it might be at that higher price point because you're getting more value out of them and being able to approach more journeys or more GLs with them.
yes, and that's kind of why I've been hesitant on them giving out these bundles. Is I felt they've been very intentional with all of them
Yeah.
on not giving characters that are too you know, diverse isn't the right word, but it's probably the best word.
Yeah, I get what
That
you're
they
saying. That like they're not widespread in terms of like what you're getting from them. So like you said with Slicker and Ray, I think each one had like one character that could be pulled to something else. So like Jedi Knight Anakin, I think Palpatine might have been in there. I don't remember
but
100%.
wasn't but Palpatine is wasn't a part of the bundle because he's a
Oh,
legendary
because he's a
character.
journey. Yeah, yeah.
Same thing with JTR. She's the over those two characters are your overlap and they are journey guide. Same thing with BB-8.
And when
BB-8's a
they did
journey
those
guide.
originally, they kind of offered it as like three different bundles because there was like a BB-8 bundle, and then there was like the finalizer bundle, and there was like if you wanted everything, you ended up spending $40 or $50 anyway.
Yes. Like I spent on the Ray bundle, it was $7.99 and it was I still had to relic I think OG Finn, BB-8, Vet Smuggler Chewie, and Stick Ray.
Yeah, it's like
Because that was
440 carbonate circuit boards. That number is burned into my head because I see it constantly when I do reviews. It's like, oh, you bought the bundle.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can
and
tell.
it was a those were the JTR whatever the JTR characters were. That was what I had to rep,
Yeah.
but I bought everybody else, so I never had to put gear on Rose Tico.
I have her. So while I put gear on Rose Tico, technically you spent money on Rose Tico. Who's the
I
bigger
did.
loser here?
I justify it by saying like I spent money on Ray, and I don't think about the
Yeah, you
consequences of
don't
the rest of them.
That's a big problem in this world is we don't think about the repercussions. And there you are, spending
Uh,
money on Rose Tico.
it's like voting in the presidential elections. You're
Oh,
just hoping that either vice president that one of them picks is like a half decent person.
oh my God. Oh,
otherwise,
just
otherwise abstain.
listen. I'm not. We could spend 4 hours talking about politics, and we're gonna alienate every single one of our viewers at that point. Just, I can't wait for it to be over. That's all I'm gonna say.
Dude, can we just like? I think we need somebody older.
Yeah. Yes. You heard it first. We need someone older for president. Just go even older. Let's get like the Pope.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy Carter can still run.
I'll vote for fucking Jimmy Carter with the way that things have been happening over these last couple of years. He's out there volunteering and building houses at like 99. Good for him, man. Like
Yeah,
that good for him. I cannot wait till it's over. I'm not talking politics. It's not happening. Don't drag me into that shit.
we're just we're just but hey, I don't care what way people go. Just can't wait till it's over.
I can't wait till it's over. That's amen, man. That's where it's at.
I do need more memes though. Like that's what we're here for.
You're gonna get them over the next couple of months. You're gonna start seeing a lot of those
I
going out.
I need more of them. But anyway, so the other side with Lightspeed funnels before we move to the next topic and kind of like moving into the future of what Go kind of looks like and with these Lightspeed funnels, the one thing I do want to just I always bring it up when I talk about them because I feel like everybody kind of gets nervous about it. If you don't want to take any risk on, oh, how do I know that what I'm farming isn't going to be a bundle? Then farm the newest thing. Then start farming Ahsoka or go farm Jar Jar. Otherwise, accept that you're taking a risk. The older thing that you farm, this it could be a Lightspeed bundle. But the side of that we don't think about is just because you built something that is a part of a Lightspeed bundle, you built it and were able to naturally build it. You got Zetas on them. You built mods for them. You have those resources and you're able to move into the next thing without being resource streamed. The amount of my channel members and subscribers I see who are like, Phil, I'm getting Ben Solo, Commander Tano, Maul, Malgus, and oh, I'm trying to get GL Ray, and oh, I'll get Kylo in a month too. What do I do with my 5 Zeta max? And I'm like, I don't know any better than you. You know, like you, whenever you're buying these bundles, you're taking like I don't want you to think that building something old and then a Lightspeed bundle comes out means that you got gypped. All
Yeah.
it means is that you went ahead and built resources and invested in something while everybody else was off doing something else. And your team will be better for it because you were prepared. So
Yes.
I try to that preparation is very important.
It comes down to like certain things. So let's say that there is another GL Lightspeed bundle. I don't necessarily think there's going to be one, but let's just say that C is going to be the next Lightspeed bundle. Um, but unknowingly, right? Like assuming that it might happen, but in this moment where we don't know if it's going to happen. I tell people to go for C first. I know that you don't agree with that, and that's fine. We've talked about that before. But if you don't go for C first, I tell people it's not worth it anymore. You don't get enough out of it anymore, right? If C becomes like the next Lightspeed bundle, the people that did farm it, they got their use, they got the whatever they needed over those 4 months, those 5 months, those 6 months. It's just not something that I try to put into the equation. But using C as the example, if you don't go for him first, he's kind of like a luxury at that point with like Dr. Afra, right? And that's like a farm that if you already have the ROI behind certain assault battles and you already have Slicker for doing like proving grounds, you can choose to wait on that farm because it's not going to affect your account negatively. You know, that's what you have to think about is like if you hold out and roll the chance cubes, on these bundles, are you negatively affecting your account if you lose out? And with a team like C, you might not be, but a team like JML, you might be significantly, just because you're losing out on two assault battles, you're losing out on great things in ROTE, you're losing out on conquest, like every part of the game.
Yeah. And I think that kind of leads us into the future of Go and kind of in almost two parts, if you will. So I know everybody loves these because they're a part of the game. Everybody loves Datacron.
My favorite.
And this current Datacron set, I think, is a glimpse into what the future of Swago looks like. So Datacrons have kind of been on a power creep, much similar to the characters in the game. And as someone who doesn't really go to, I don't put much effort into Datacrons because I put it this way: going from Kyber 1 to Kyber 2, or Kyber 2 to Kyber 1 nets you about 1,000 extra crystals a month. If you do a 50 crystal, 3 by 50 crystal refreshes every day in Conquest, you're probably, and you can get in between Kyber 1 and Kyber 2, like fine. But when you start doing the hundreds, you're immediately just losing value. You're not
Yeah.
making this.
Yeah.
It won't happen. So I've kind of really toned back on Datacrons. And this set, these past two sets, the one I missed because I was traveling, but this current purple set, like you can tell who's spending and who isn't. And I feel like the future of it is that they're going to try and make these so much more challenging. Like the whole light side, dark side, and then light side, dark side support, light side, dark side executor is so much more challenging to the player because there's so many more options for you to not necessarily choose, but land on and then need to spend a reroll map for it. Because how they make their money on Datacrons is the reroll maps.
Yes.
They don't make it off they don't make it off level nines. They don't make it off level sixes or level threes. The money they make on Datacrons is on those reroll maps. And if you don't believe me, go into like Law's best guild and look at the amount of rerolls that they've done. And I guarantee you'll probably be appalled. Because they know what stats they want. They know the level 3, 6, 9, everything. And I feel like the future of the game here is trending towards that direction of we're going to squeeze you with Datacrons until you can't breathe anymore.
That's the thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I've been trying to get into everyone's head, is I do my 3x refreshes, and that's it. That's all I do. And I get whatever I get. Like they say with kids, you get what you get and you don't get upset. And sometimes I get the things I want, and sometimes I don't get the things I want. But once you start getting into, you can get into Kyber without doing anything crazy, or Kyber 1 rather, without doing anything crazy. But once you start to inch towards like the lower 75% of Kyber 1, and then once you start getting into that lower 50%, and then you start to get into that gauntlet, there is no return on investment. You are spending because you want to be competitive, not because you care about getting crystals, right? So if that's your thing, fine, like that's it. But for the majority of players, that's not something that you need, right? For the majority of players, that's not a goal that's realistically obtainable, and it's not even a goal that you should go for, because you're going to spend $500 to make $50 worth of crystals.
And it just like to me, it's the whole like they disappear, right? Like that $500 you spend doesn't stick around in your account; it goes
Yeah.
away.
But even if, like, so
And
let's say you spent $500 worth of crystals, right? And let's say that if you were number one in Kyber, you got $1,000 worth of crystals. And realistically spending $300 gave you a realistic chance to get that one spot. I wouldn't do it, but I could see a very small minority of players doing it just to try to hope, like almost like a lottery. But right now,
Yeah,
at that level, there not a single one of those people is getting an ROI. They do it because they want to be the best, not because they want to earn more crystals.
correct. To them, GAC is not about crystal.
Right.
Like that, yeah. Even like if you ever wonder why Arnold sits at like level 50 in Fleet Arena, it's because the amount of crystals that he buys is not worth his time to climb in Fleet Arena.
Yeah.
Like I don't I used to wonder that, and then I got into YouTube and I was like, oh, that's why.
You get it.
He
Yeah.
makes
And
so much
I have
money.
guys in my guild that are like that, especially with GAC. They hate GAC and they're like, I'd rather spend $100 on a vault each month than play GAC. And if you have that
Yeah.
type of disposable income, then fine, do it.
I'm the biggest whale in my squad arena squad arena fleet arena is like that. If he climbs on a day, it's a rare day.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I only climb when I feel like it, or I get annoyed by the Russians. That's what he says. Like, yeah, he said, if I get annoyed by the Russians, or climb, I climb. That's it.
I think the thing that's important here is, there's a lot of people like us. You're middle class. I'm lower middle class, middle class. Like we're in that same vibe area. You have to work a long job and then you get to do a little bit of fun things. There's a lot of people like us that play this game that listen to us. There's a lot of people who are younger that listen to us who are working, their retail jobs and they don't have a lot of money and they don't understand the mentality of these people. But what they need to understand is like, yes, everything that I buy is thought of in terms of hours, right? Like I'm like, oh, if I buy this game, it's this many hours of work, it's not worth it. But there are a lot of players that don't have that problem anymore. And the only thing that's important to them is their time, right? So the dollar amount doesn't even get taken into account anymore. It's will $100 save me 12 hours of time? And is that worth it? And a lot of the times the answer to them is yes, it is.
there's a there's a TikTok account I follow where this guy's always talked about like money, and he'd talk about private jets, and he was saying how like the only reason you buy a private jet is that your time is more valuable than flying commercial.
Yeah.
That he's like, I'd rather buy an airplane for $40 million and have X amount of costs every single year, and that is still going to end up giving me more money because I can go to X number of meetings, save this time that I would be at the airport doing whatever. Like that's you wonder how those people live. That's exactly how these
That's
guys
how
live
they
in
live.
CFO. Like they know that I don't need to play GAC. I'm just gonna go buy a vault.
And I'm not
Like
there,
and have
so I
fun.
don't. I wish that I had that experience where I didn't have to think about buying a $20 PlayStation game and go, is this worth it? But people who play the game do need to understand that there are a lot of people in that situation that play this game. I
Yeah.
had those people in my guild that would spend tons of money because these people were CEOs, not of big companies, but of like smaller companies and still making a very good living. And it just was more worth it to them.
I remember I don't know if you ever watched Cubs fan Han back in the day, but he had this it was around like 2021 when the community was really at its lowest. Like I look back and I'm shocked that we made it through that time as a game. Like I thought they just shut the game off.
Yeah.
And he had a guy on. I don't remember his name, and I wouldn't say it anyways. But I remember he said at that point that he'd spent over $100,000 on this game, and the guy was like, and he was very upfront about it, right? Like he offered that number up very willingly and just says like I have the disposable income and everything. And I just remember sitting there thinking like I get sick to my stomach thinking about purchasing roast ego.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time it was other stuff, but it's like I spent $20 on an old Ben pack, and I still get sick to my stomach to this day thinking about that money. And this guy spent how much? But I think sometimes those players who are saying, "Why doesn't CG do what I want them to do?" Because guys like that exist.
Yeah.
That there are players who are spending that level of money, and who are you going to listen to? The person who is doing nothing for you, or the person who's spending, you know, hundreds of thousands?
That
And that
absolutely.
perspective is
Of course.
important. I always say the relationship between free to play and whale is you could picture the ocean. That like I am that little creature, the little fish that swims underneath the shark, right? And eats the bacteria. Like, without me, that shark will die from disease because bacteria will grow on its stomach and it will die. Right? So the shark needs me to stay there and just eat the table scraps off of its stomach. And in return, I get protection from the barracudas and everything else that want to, destroy me. So we need each other. And that's the way that whale and free to play work. You can't piss us off that, hey, there's no bacteria on your stomach. Now I don't have anything to eat and I'm hungry. So I'm gonna go swim away from you. And now there's no, there's bacteria and you're screwed. And at the same time, I can't be like, well, I don't need you. And then I go out in the wild and get eaten by something because, you know, that's the way it works.
It's the
So I don't know
circle.
if that analogy, it's a circle.
It's
It's a
the
circle of
circle
life.
of CG.
Yeah.
Would I get sued if I sang? It
Oh,
was like the circle of CG.
I think we're so low in the YouTube monetization poll that it just doesn't
It's the wheel of revenue.
matter. But that kind of goes into, I kind of talked a little bit about like Datacrons and segueing into like characters in the future. But what about like content for Ahsoka? Where does CG head from here? What could be that next? I mean, dare I say, are we going to get acolyte content?
Oh my god. So I made a bet yesterday. I was drunk and I made a bet. I was talking to Scribe and I asked him this question and I guess the bet is an R9 and he says acolyte content is the next after Ahsoka's stuff. That's the next thing. I said officially as part of the bet Andor content, but I was put on the spot. And I actually think that we might go back to prequels and do something with Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. And at first, I didn't think that was the case because it's so much Galactic Republic and Separatists. But then I realized we still have clones and we still have Geos, right? So I'm like, we can go back to those without too much overlap. So I think I'm leaning that way, is more towards like the Battle of Geonosis and going back to those that the fucking arena and everything and doing something there.
I'm torn because part of me says that they'll do acolyte stuff because Disney will want the exposure and they need to make some money from that show because ain't nobody fucking watching it.
Well, I heard it
Um,
was the most watched show on Disney, even though nobody liked it.
oh, I don't, so I can say this: I watched through 3 episodes and I stopped,
I've
and
watched four. Yeah.
I've never done that with Star Wars. Like I've stayed up to date. I I went in late to work one day so I could finish the Kenobi finale in the morning. Like that was the levels of dedication that was there. And this show, I was just like, this is terrible.
As of July
But
4th, I'm Google. I have it on my other screen right now here, and I'll even pull it up. But as of July 4th, I don't know how reliable these sources are, but it was the second most Star Wars show ever. And I don't know the validity of these sources right now, but to some extent it
I
says money was made.
oh, see, I don't think any money was made. 'Cause I've heard a lot of reports of Disney firing people left and right.
That's because it sucked.
They already,
It is awful.
I heard that they're already like canceling season 2 and stuff.
That'd be great.
Like,
But then that leads credence to them not wanting to do Acolyte content, because if you think about a lot of the content we got, like Mandalore, not Mandalore, The Mandalorian with like Beskar Mando and like Executor is not that content, but Razor Crest was an important part of that content. It came with season 2. And
yeah,
when Disney forces things on CG, it's generally to promote something new. So if they're not going to do an Acolyte season 2, there's no reason for Disney to push Acolyte content. You know, but Andor is coming out. Just saying.
Andor and Andor, to be fair, was probably one of the best Star Wars shows that we've
It was
gotten,
a great
if
show.
not. And if we're honest with ourselves as Star Wars fans, Rogue One can stand up with the best of the Star Wars movies from a standalone perspective.
Absolutely.
It it is probably one of the more enjoyable watches.
Absolutely. Rogue One was refreshing. It was a fun movie. It was a good movie. Um, 100%.
I There's a part of me. This is where the random thoughts part of our videos come from. But there is a part of me that would love to do if I could like have two versions of my brain that I could like one of them did this and one of them did that. I'd love one of them to be as it is, that like I've seen all the Star Wars content as it's come out today. And then there's another part of me that says I'd love to watch it in timeline order
Mm,
and see the like because you think the way I've watched it today, I have very differing opinions on the prequels versus the, original trilogy versus this and that. But like, could you imagine seeing Anakin slice off Mace's hand for the first time? That you don't know that that's coming, right? You don't know he's turning into Darth Vader at that point. Like,
yes.
part of the
Yeah.
problem with part of the problem with the prequels is you know nothing bad is going to happen to Anakin and Obi-Wan because hey, guess what? They're in they're in these movies, and that was like the one thing with Rogue One is they all had I wasn't in a New Hope itis. So
Yes.
like something had to happen to them. But so I'd love to have this like if I could go back and watch all of them in timeline order and just see. Yes, you missed the reveal that Darth Vader is Luke's father. That reveal gets lost on in The Empire Strikes Back, right? Like that was a big reveal to everybody. It's one of the most iconic moments. But imagine instead that you're watching Rogue One for the first time and you're seeing all the heroes die.
And not realizing
That like
how it's going to play out.
yes, like you're watching this scene thinking, oh, these are going to be the heroes in the next Star Wars movie, and then it's like, you know, gone.
I think the one
Like I feel like
problem
that.
is it's so vast that by the time you get halfway through doing that, you're like, oh wait, now there's 3 new seasons of all this. You'd have to like really commit to like watching
Yeah,
2 hours a day in order to get that without that kind of happening to you.
I don't even think 2 hours a day is enough. How many hours of Clone Wars is there?
Clone, yeah, we have
And
seven seasons of that. Clone
I
Wars,
was thinking about it
Rebels, Andor, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. It's a lot.
because with like Clone Wars, you'd have to watch Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. Then you have to get into the Clone Wars itself up until like halfway through season 7, right? And then you get to the point where Ahsoka gets reunited with Anakin, and then you got to stop, go watch Revenge of the Sith, and then you've got to go watch Attack of the rest of Clone Wars season 7 to kind of get the
I
second
bet
half of it.
someone not has done it, but has written the timeline.
Yeah, but then it gets better because you could watch all of Rebels before um A New Hope, except for Sabine's closing monologue, because you can't listen to her. Spoiler alerts for anybody who hasn't seen it, Star Wars, and then I'm gonna punch you all. Um, that she says like, "Oh, Hera fought in the Battle of Endor, and had Jason or whatever," and you're like, "Okay, like I've seen all of Star Wars, so that's fine." But like, if you were seeing it for the first time, you can't listen to that. So you got to stop that, and then you can go watch all of the rest of the content, and then come back to enjoy that part. But yeah,
I'm
I've
like,
always wondered that. So
because it would be an interesting. I'm looking at this all here now, right? Like, and it would take me too long to find one that's accurate, but like, everyone keeps saying chronological order, but it's really like release order. I'm sure one of these links has the order of like somebody has figured it out,
oh, I've seen
and
them before. It's
yeah,
so complex.
like you have to like stop at this
But
episode, go see this thing, stop at that episode, go see this thing. It would be crazy to do.
and even then, you'd miss out on, like, you think watching Solo. Maybe Solo is actually a good movie to some people then, which I don't know why Solo gets as much hate as it does. But
I think Solo wasn't a bad movie. I did enjoy it. I just think that the movie itself, it suffers from the same thing that like Phantom Menace did, right? Where like they did the metachlorians and we're like, we don't care. We wanted the Force to be cool and mystical, and now it's bugs, right? Like
yeah,
Solo just tried to explain everything, and I didn't
yeah,
need it to explain everything. I just wanted to see his story. I didn't need every little snippet told to me. But it was still
yeah.
good. Like
Like
I didn't hate it.
I think I went into it with the expectation that like it's not the originals.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but like how it's going to end. That's one of the that is the I don't know if this is a very big rant, but that's like the inherent problem we had with the Kenobi series, and why I personally hate Reva as much as I do as a character, is that she was doomed to fail from
From
the
the
sole
beginning.
purpose that of all of the characters that are in that, of the main characters, Darth Vader, Obi-Wan, and her, right? They're kind of the three main characters, and Leia. They're the four main characters of that series. Who's the only one who isn't in the fucking original trilogy?
Yeah.
There's only one of them. So the problem with her, and the reason why I think we all as Star Wars fans hate her, is she served no purpose. And if you take her out of that and replace her with anybody else, that show works the same. If you
Yes.
make that Grand Inquisitor, if you make it anybody else, and that was our problem with her. It wasn't that, I mean, I didn't think she was a great actor either, but that's beside the point. It's just the fact that that character was so flawed from the start because everybody else she interacted with is in other Star Wars content and she is not. And so it just felt like this useless add on that ended up serving no purpose to any major plot points. In the reality of Star Wars, she did not serve any major purpose, is the way I would explain that.
I would say for me, like Star Wars, I've talked about this with a lot of people. Like if you go back and actually watch the original trilogy, it's cheesy as shit. Like go watch some of that. Like there are a lot of Star Wars fans, and they're all gonna cancel me now. But like I love the movies. Don't get me wrong. I grew up when the special editions came out. It's like so I saw them in theaters like as my first viewing experience. A lot of fans have these rose tinted glasses on of thinking that these are masterpieces that are perfect and not a single thing is wrong with them. Go watch them. They're cheesy. The dialogue in some parts is awful, like just terrible. And so when I watch something in the Star Wars universe, there's a lot of people who like try to connect all these lore points, like they're Charlie Day, and like with their little red lines and like the murder wall and trying to like piece things together. I don't care. I just want like a fun story. And like Obi-Wan was kind of boring to me. The Acolyte was kind of boring to me. You know, Andor was exciting. Like that was enjoyable. Most of the Mandalorian was kind of exciting, other than the stupid like Power Rangers who drove around on Vespas that went 5 miles an hour. Book of Boba Fett had potential, but then there was just a lot of
But
like, why do I
that
care?
was Bu- Bu- Book of Boba Fett was the Power Rangers, and then Book of Boba Fett turned into Mando season 2.5.
Well, right, and that like this is where I get confused. Is that like they bled together, and you're like, wait a second, is this about Boba Fett or is this about the Mandalorian? Like, which one are we focusing on here?
And that like it's funny you said that 'cause, like the original trilogy, like my why I love Rogue One so much. I don't like I hate saying like oh the heroes die, but like the only hero that dies in the original trilogy comes back as a Force ghost, and he like wanted to die.
Yeah,
So like it's this it's this insane happen. It's like Lord. I mean, Lord of the Rings is the same way. To be fair, like Boromir, who's like kind of an asshole, is the only one that dies, and everybody else. Hey, guess what? We're still here at the end. Like, um, but I do think I love your point on the like Mandalorian and how like it bled together, right? Like, and I definitely think season three there were some parts where I was like, this is boring as hell.
yeah. Whereas season one was
But
amazing.
and I think that is why like you brought and to circle this back this will go. You brought up a very good point that like the successful stuff has made it into Star Wars.
Yeah,
Like we're not gonna see Lizzo and Jack Black's characters inside of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Like, and if we do,
that's the
talk about
signal.
boycotts.
That's the signal for
Yeah,
the end of the game right there.
like I'll be streaming Conker's Bad Fur Day from now on. Like,
Hey, I'll be right there with you. That's a great game.
but that's just I think that's kind of the future of the game now. I feel like is they're going to want to capitalize. Ahsoka series I thought was awesome.
Yeah,
I thought it was very well done. There was enough explaining done, kind of like Solo. I felt like some of the explaining was nice in Solo. Like some of those little how he got the Falcon from Lando was nice. Kind of seeing the Lando being this, who he was as a young kid with Han. I thought those were interesting parts. But like how he got the last name Solo. I thought how he met Chewbacca was kind of boring. Like I felt like that was just such a gimmick. Like didn't make sense to me. But the idea in Swago that like the popular characters have made it in. I mean, to be fair, where the hell is um
Dexter Jetster.
oh who
Dexter Jetster.
Dexter Jester? I was gonna say Woody Harrelson's character.
Oh, what I know who you're
Beckett.
talking about from Solo. I don't remember his
Yeah,
name.
Beckett.
And then
Tobias Beckett.
yes, so Tobias Beckett, and then the
Val Rio and Driving Boss.
what's his name? Uh, Not Timothy Chalamet. He was never in that. Oliphant from was it Mandalorian? Timothy Oliphant. Cobb Vance.
Oh, oh, yes, yes, yes. Yep.
Cobb Vance. Like that would be a good addition to the game. Like he was a cool character and a fan
Yes.
favorite.
Those are the characters I'd be adding into this game.
Yes.
And your issue there, of course, is what tags, and I think that's where, kind of going back into part one, we talked about how they're saying, hey, with Dark Trooper Peridia, if the leader is Imperial Remnant but not attacked,
Yeah.
that with Cobb Vance, do you go the opposite way and say, if Beskar Armor Mando is an ally, this guy gets the Mandalorian? In that way you could use him in that Bo-Katan Mandalore scene. Like that could be a way to use him.
He would be a character that would need very, very specific synergies, and it would, because he would be like a scoundrel, right? And there's so many scoundrels, so you would need like to figure out which ones he fits with, and which one he doesn't fit with. And I think that a lot of people who play the game, like, they want their favorite characters, and what they often don't realize is, and CG has been doing a really good job with this over the last year, with trying to polish up old teams. Almost every character has a purpose, right? Like, this character is intended to do this thing. This character is intended to do that thing. Versus, like, say, Bo-Katan back when JMK first came out. The original Bo-Katan, 2.5, 3 years before Bo-Katan Mandalore came out, she served no purpose other than farm her to get JMK. Nobody used her in any team. She was relicked and forgotten about. She had no usefulness, right? Like, it wasn't a useful character. But in the last year and a half or so, everything, whether it failed or not, and I think Luthen is going to fail, it did attempt to lift something and make something old more prominent.
Well, I don't want to burst your bubble, but Bo, I mean, she was good with Maul. The problem was that it was kind of a short period of time because Maul went with Lord Vader for a lot of people.
But were you using her with Maul because she was good with Maul, or were you using her with Maul because she just happened to have the tag and you just happened to have her at Relics?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what I did too. She didn't serve
Yes.
any purpose on the team. It was just like, oh, she's Relic 5, so let me throw it in.
No, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what yeah.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
they've done that job of continuing with that trend. So with like somebody like Cobb Vanth, you have to be very careful how you do that. And but that's where these characters from like the Acolyte, you wonder like unaligned force users have kind of become this, I feel like, dumping ground for them. And this is something that I'm kind of getting nervous about because how do I say this? But how many unaligned force users are there in this game? I mean,
Um,
it's obscene. It's obscene at this point.
let's
Like,
find out. No, those are bounty hunters. How many? 6, 12, 18, 24. There's 25 of them. So it's not the biggest faction, but it is a relatively large faction.
and it's not just a large faction, but it's a faction that you use almost every single one of them.
Yeah.
Like, there's maybe so Thick Ray I don't use, Second Sister I'm not using.
I don't
That's
use
about it.
OG Kylo really, but
Oh yeah, he would count too.
I
Continue. I gotta take a break real quick.
yeah, I mean, for myself here, I don't use OG Kylo. I don't use Second Sister. I've seen Second Sister get used actually in the last like month or so in terms of GAC. But overall, the interesting thing I think with the UFU tag is that it's a newer tag. We haven't seen this like this came out with, I think, with Ray. Um and it's one of the bigger ones in the game, right? Second to like Scoundrels is 6, 12, 24, 30, 36. What's 36 plus 6 is 42, 40. Oh shit. 48, 54, 55, 56. There's 57 Scoundrels. Um, but it is on the larger side, and we can see like Ahsoka is coming out, and she is most definitely going to be unaligned force user. We can look at like Balin Skull, who's going to be an unaligned force user. We can look at Shin, who's going to be an unaligned force user. Do you like my filibuster there? You see how I can just keep talking? It's a special skill.